Sorry. So loud.
I know, without Eric here,
Yeah, true.
Who are we missing?
you're missing Heather?
Yes.
Is she gonna?
Your dog is under the table up there.
I got it.
Oh, that's me. Alright, okay.
He's just loving the attention.
Oh. So I called the order. Do we have any citizens comments?
No.
Okay.
No. Dawn works for the city.
So she's not a citizen.
So on to discussion items, ADA building standards. How the city of Lewiston
So,
address.
This is Jeff Wolf, he's our building official,
Hello.
and this is Brandon Cunningham, he is the building inspector. So,
so what we do is we have a development review committee that, will have clients come in if they want to, you know, describe whatever project they're gonna do, and we remind them if the ADA requirements at that time. And then also, when they submit plans, we also, there's a checklist that requires an ADA if required, at that time. And then when we review the plans and approve them, we would also be looking for ADA requirements. The required, commercially is the main, projects that would require ADA. Residential, multifamily, like, the big apartment buildings that are going up below SEL, some of those are gonna require ADA compliance. But that's kind of what we do as far as making sure that we get compliance. On the other side of it, if it's an existing building and we get a complaint or something like that from a tenant or a landlord dispute, we typically steer those people to FHA or HUD. That kind of goes that direction, through the court system. We don't have any enforcement on that end of it. I did bring some handouts.
we can share one.
But that's kind of the.
So if a building needs like an ADA door or something like that, the owner is not required to put one in unless, what would trigger like an event?
If it's an existing building, what would trigger it would be a change of occupancy. So if it, for instance, if it's a B occupancy and it goes to an A occupancy, that would trigger ADA requirements. So we would make them upgrade to ADA restroom. The getting into the egress into the building would need to be ADA compliant. That's kind of like, we have that happen on a lot of the businesses downtown on Main Street where they're difficult sometimes to get those to be compliant. They're so old. And, you know, we don't like to kill projects with it, but, you know, sometimes it is what it is, and we've got to meet code on some of this stuff.
Well, we should probably introduce ourselves. I'm Mark Havens, and I'm the director of Interlink. So we serve people with disabilities. Now, what did you mean by if a rental unit transitions from a B to an A? Is that what you said?
No, it'd be a commercial business. Would be to like a business, like an office building, and they go to a different type of occupancy, which would be, it could be anything. It could be an M or an A. An A would be like a church or something like that.
Okay, so
That triggers
different requirements.
if somebody has a B occupancy and they stay they move out and a new business moves in and it's the same type of occupancy, it doesn't trigger an ADA. We let them stay with what's existing. That's what we want.
So I have a simple question that I absolutely does not have a simple answer, but I think it's important for the commission here to understand this, because just reading the Americans with Disabilities Act doesn't always tell you everything, or doesn't tell you the practical application, thank you, of things. So for those requirements, residential is different than commercial or public buildings.
Correct.
And an existing building would have different requirements than new construction from the ground up.
That's right.
So that's a lot to have to kind of administer.
What if it's mixed use?
If it's mixed use, it would still fall under if it's new construction and it's commercial mixed use.
That would make sense to me, but
Yeah.
what if it's just existing?
If it's existing, we would go off the occupancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the rules are, and I've never understood if this is local rules or building standards or ADA. You can build up to 3 stories with no elevator, right? Residential,
That's correct.
commercial,
Yeah,
no.
that would be, now, if it's a 3-story apartment building, is it what you're talking about? The lower units would need to meet ADA because of the number. Once you go 4 or more units in an
Yeah.
apartment building.
More floors.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, apartments, yes. Once you go over 4 or more apartments require at least 1, and then,
So there's a percentage requirement.
yes, and then so I go to chapter 11 in the IBC. And it'll tell me, depending on how many apartments there are, how many units need to meet ADA.
So not every unit has to be ADA compliant.
That's correct.
Nowhere near.
No,
Oh, okay. And no elevator until you have 4 floors.
right.
I spoke with some people from California who are relocating up here, and they were shocked. They were shocked. They just said, in California, you gotta put an elevator at 2 floors, let alone
Wow.
3.
Florida does the same thing.
Wow,
And so that's not a national standard, that's a local standard.
it must be, yeah.
Because they just couldn't believe you could build housing 3 stories and not provide it, which is on both sides of the river here, and not provide an elevator.
Just use the road sweeper.
So is it 188 compliant per 4, or is that just?
It starts at that amount and,
So it doesn't go like 2 to 8?
It kind of does. It does
Okay.
something like that, but there's a table in the IBC in a book that I would have to look up.
Oh, you're fine. I just was curious if it was.
Yeah, it continues to increase the more units that you have.
So that housing development by Walmart,
Yeah.
and which is in Clarkson,
Yeah.
built by Catholic Charities, 3 buildings, 72 units, only 8 of them, no elevators, and only 8 of
There's
them
no
are gonna be,
elevators?
no elevators. And only 8 of them will be ADA compliant for people with disabilities. I don't think they're gonna be very popular with senior citizens
Mhm.
either, if you have to climb to the 3rd floor.
Weren't they primarily built for senior citizens?
Well, that's what we were led to believe, and somehow it changed to low income, predominantly low income with children. I know.
We'll say, what I will add to the common areas need to meet ADA in apartments,
That would
which
make
falls under the ADA book. And inside the units falls under, it's kind of a little bit of a gray area, I know.
Yeah.
But the HUD standards are for the inside of the units. And the exterior common areas are the ADA, the ANSI 117, this book here.
So another thing that I don't think is commonly known, and we just discovered it at Interlink about a year ago. Wheelchair ramps, which we build sometimes. Wheelchair ramps on residences can be half as long as on public and commercial buildings, right? Meaning twice as steep. They don't have to meet the 1-to-1 standard, they can meet 6 inches to 1 inch of height. Or,
Yeah.
Are you
if
familiar
there's
with
not
that?
Room.
oh, there's a required. And we when we discovered that reading the regs, and then we asked all of our construction volunteers, every single one of them knew that. And I said, well, why didn't you tell that to us? Or have we been wasting a lot of plywood and whatnot building? Well, it's just easier when they're not so steep. Yeah, but as you said, the front yard may not be big enough
Yeah,
for such a long ramp,
yeah,
besides the cost.
correct, yeah, and so we try to make it's actually an exception in the book, but they try to make accommodations, so if somebody needs a ramp and they don't have room, we're not saying, well, that's it, deal with the stairs, we, let them put in a little bit steeper ramp than reason. If they don't have room to do it one to one.
Or to save our aluminum pieces. I have a proposal on my desk right now, 58 feet long. 58 feet long ramp. And it's like, yeah, I think we're gonna make this one a little steeper. Because I said we've never done a ramp that long before.
There's a
Never.
maximum length. Is it 30 feet?
I believe so.
Next
You have
to
to have a landing,
So the land, you have.
rest areas.
That's the whole point. Yes, this has landings and it's a double switchback.
Yeah.
It's like the spiral highway. And it's like, are you serious? To our designers, I said, we gotta come up with something different.
Build a wheelchair lift.
Yeah. So this is a building, well, I think it's even a manufactured home, a trailer that's really high off the ground, and sometimes we just tell them no. But anyway, okay, thank you about that. Anybody else? I'm trying to think of other questions.
Do you guys regulate like in new building, how many ADA parking spaces a business has to have?
I don't, it's in the zoning code, so Katie typically does. It is in my book, but it's zoning I think is a little more stringent than building code.
You mean handicap parking?
Yeah.
Disabled numbers, yeah.
So what
I was
about
just curious.
buildings in like the historic part of town?
Um,
Like specifically, is it the there's an apartment complex over there next to the food place, Briar Building.
Yes.
So that elevator and that door, I don't know if you guys have ever.
Elevator
gone there.
never works.
Elevator never works. When it does work, it's got an accordion door and the door to open, and there's another steel door in front of it. So to push that accordion door and then to push that steel door open, that steel door is really heavy.
That's the original
And-
elevator.
It's crazy. I couldn't think about being in a wheelchair and trying to navigate that myself. I went over there to check out the elevator specifically. A coworker had told me to go over and look at it, and I just was really surprised by because it's a heavy door. I thought I was stuck in the elevator because I didn't realize. I thought I was waiting for the door to come open the whole time, and I was like, oh wait,
It's me.
I have to let myself out.
Yeah, so those, they would fall under the existing building code. And,
Right.
so we don't really have any leverage to make them change it unless they did some substantial construction within the building. We don't wanna, I know, I agree with you, probably shouldn't be changed, but on the other side, we don't like to go to business owners or
Right.
building owners and say, oh, we gotta, we need all this upgraded. We're not gonna-
I get it, but it just was how heavy that door was really surprising to me.
When I was a child, and those were all offices, doctor's offices, they had an elevator operator. So you get yes, the little old lady sat on a stool, which floor please, and she would open the doors for you. Can you believe that?
Oh
All the
my
way up to
goodness.
all the way up to the 70s, an elevator operator.
I wonder if they got paid.
Imagine that job though, all day long,
Oh,
just writing it down, right?
So, can I ask that?
Please.
How does the complaint process work? You mentioned earlier that those get referred over to the, I forget the group that you said, but.
Yeah, that's really what we would just refer them to HUD or FHA, which is Fair Housing Act. And then it kind of goes from there. We don't really do a lot of enforcement. We don't have the authority to enforce it on the back end. We do on the front because we're reviewing the plans and it's new construction, and
Right.
if somebody pushed back at that time, we would have some leverage. But once it's you know, an existing structure, we don't have any, enforcement arm. It would go, ultimately, it would probably, if they really didn't want to do it, it would go to the DOJ.
Or Intermountain Fair Housing Council would be a good resource for you if that's what you're looking for.
Oh, I wanted to understand that process, because from a, you know, a citizen standpoint, if there's an existing building, someone has a concern with it,
Mhm.
and they're not making any significant change, it's outside the city's hands, is kind of what I was.
I know how housing has a whole compliance department too, and they're really easy, and user friendly to work with.
She works with disability, or she works.
Disability
for
Action Center, sorry.
So she's deeper into this than even. we
And
are.
I
D-
do all kinds of other stuff with housing, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, we would try to, usually I ask them if we do get a complaint with a, like a tenant, if they have written, usually the best advice is to make it a handwritten complaint to the landlord is a good place to start, because they need something in writing. So, and then kind of refer them to the appropriate FHA or whatever. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's my question. Is it really a complaint or is it a request? So aside from that, the 4 boxes I just talked about, residential, commercial, existing building, new building, is landlord tenant stuff. Are landlords required to help either a tenant who is already disabled wanting to move in, or a tenant who's been living there and suddenly has become disabled, like had a stroke? Are they required to do adaptations?
Not to my knowledge, that would be a good question probably for HUD or FHA. I don't know. If they had a dispute like that, it would probably, and the building owner didn't want to do it, I would think it would probably either be settled or they would have to take them to court and sue them.
And that's part of our issue. So sometimes tenants contact us and they want some adaptation. They want us to do it, you know, and it's like, well,
Yeah,
why isn't the landlord providing it? Well, if they're not required to, fine. But then if the request proceeds for wheelchair ramp, which would be on the exterior, or grab bars, handrails, things like that on the interior, if the applicant doesn't own the building, then we require the landlords have to approve it. Usually they do.
yeah,
Sometimes they don't. And they will just say, no, I don't want a ramp put on my building. I don't want the wall. I don't want the bathroom tiles drilled into for a handrail. I don't want that. Maybe that's about, it's not often, 5% of the time, 5 or 10%. And that's within their right. They do not, is what you're saying. They do not have to make any accommodation. Okay.
So I kind of thought I was right, but I double checked myself first. So FHA, so Fair Housing Act, requires that landlords, they engage in the reasonable accommodations process with the person. In short, it says that, Idaho Fair Housing laws mirror the federal requirements. Discrimination based on disability is prohibited. If they don't want to install a ramp, they have to look for creative solutions with you and discuss those and engage in that process. They're required to.
As
In
far as
Idaho.
I remember, because I remember coming across this.
Unless they would cause an undue burden or fundamental alteration to the property itself.
And ultimately, I think we'd end up in court as.
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, the reasonable accommodations is the.
Right.
Yeah,
We do get the impression, and that's all this is, that for some of the landlords who say no, that's their subtle way of wanting this person to move. I don't want the unit
Yeah.
altered in any way. If it doesn't meet your needs, go find someplace else to live. They never say
I
that.
think
but you get the
education too, though.
impression.
Because a lot of landlords think you're just gonna come in and demo this and make this huge project out of something when really maybe it's not that big of a, maybe it's grab bar, maybe it's a.
We send them the drawings, we send them the plans. We just feel like we're stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
The applicant really wants or needs this thing and the landlord says no, and it's like, Well, we're not installing it against the wishes of the property
You,
owner.
you get you ask for permission from the property owner first before you guys install.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We need it in writing.
Oh,
We
gotcha.
have a whole form and they have to approve in writing. And like I said, it's not very often, but a few times a year, they say no. And we're not in any position to force it.
Right,
So I just wasn't sure where something like that falls or where it goes.
Yeah.
They are not under any requirement to have to do it. And keep in mind, we're doing the accommodation. We're paying for it. So they're
Mhm.
not paying a dime, but they just don't want it.
oh, wow.
I felt like at one point I was looking into, doing grab bars through a hallway for a client who was falling. He used to scale the walls from Spider-Man. And, he kept falling anyway, and when we told the landlords it's for his health and safety. And if you pull health and safety on them, there's really not a lot they can do, they have to. And I feel like that binds their hands and they have to allow it.
Especially if it's not the cost to them.
Yeah,
But I don't
and
know.
they did say it would have to be done by a contractor and the damage done could not, it would have to be
Undone.
undone,
Mhm.
reversible, but, they couldn't say no.
Building codes require a handrail down any staircase, right?
Yep.
And if it's a building that's, 80 years old and didn't have a handrail, would you require them to put it in?
It depends, because the existing building code didn't always require handrails.
So you're always referencing
We have,
old building codes.
yeah, we would have to, we'd have to go back, look at try to figure out when the building was built and see if we can find if somebody, for some, usually a handrail, if it's, what is it, 3 steps?
3 or more rises, you need a handrail. And the other thing, Jeff keeps referring to the existing building code, if you were to tear out your existing steps from the 50s.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Build them,
New construction.
then they gotta mess up.
Well, that question was referring to interior staircases between floors, but since you mentioned it, this is really odd. Just in the last 4 months, 4 or 5 months or so, we've had these requests, and it's not even necessarily a disabled person, but apparently it was completely legal decades ago. Build a house with a concrete porch, porch comes out of the front doors, go down a few steps with no handrails at all. None. It's just wide open. And if you drive around Normal Hill, you'll see a lot of these.
1938, it was wide open.
And older
Wow.
people now want handrails. And they call us. But I guess there's no requirement and it's not necessarily an ADA thing. But, they want someone to come in and give them some free handrails around their porch because they feel it's dangerous. And we're like, it's also not cheap. It's expensive. It's expensive to redo
Even
that.
now, we don't require handrails unless it's over 30 inches, which is quite a bit higher than you would expect.
If it's over 30 inches off the ground.
Then we would. But 30 inches or less,
Well, that's just 2.5 feet.
yeah, but
It's a lot for somebody that's 90 though.
Oh, yeah.
so if you have like steps, like a porch, like a front porch, and a 30-inch drop on the sides, that's more than I would think, that's code.
We had a strange request a few years ago. Sorry if I'm wasting everyone's time.
Matt had a
The
question.
porch had a handrail only on one side. And the person had a stroke that left them paralyzed on one side. So she said, I can get down the steps because my good arm grabbed the handrail, but I can't get up because then my bad arm, and can you put railings on the other side? And that was a rental property and the landlord said no to us. This happened to be in Clarkston. And we had to adapt something that was safer out her back door because he didn't want the front entrance modified. Can you believe that? mean,
I
it's
can't
just
believe that.
Weird.
Hmm.
Just weird.
Yeah, so I was curious, what if any, exterior requirements are on residential housing now? If it's a new build, what sort of things are required to make sure it can meet ADA rules in the future? So, for example, does a house have to be set back from the road so far so a ramp could be put in at some date if it's ever needed? I mean, is there anything like that that exists?
No, residential's exempt. So, yeah, single family duplexes are exempt up to a threeplex.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, Mr. Counselor, I'll just alert you, one of the biggest problems we see. So a lot of senior citizens who are on very limited income, low income, are living in manufactured homes or smaller trailers, campers, whatever, in manufactured home parks. And they buy them. They own the trailer, they pay rent for the land underneath, and we get landlord approval for that. If we're putting in grab bars inside the trailer, we don't, landlord approval, they own it, but if we're doing a ramp outside. And very, very, very often, they don't have enough ground for a ramp to fit, because whatever the standards are for how tightly you can put these manufactured homes in, they don't have a big enough yard, and they're too high off the ground. Often they won't be too high off the ground if they would take the wheels off and plant the thing down lower, on a foundation, but most of them don't do that. And yet you understand why they can't just, move, go buy an apartment, or, go buy, this is all they can afford. But
My
they get-
father-in-law had that
Yeah.
problem, and they built not steps, but a ramp. It was more steep, but it was a ramp that fit over the stairs that came down off the camper,
Mhm.
and that was super helpful. And it was in a short, a small space, but even then, it's still really cramped, like you said, because it's like sardines.
I mean, you're not that far off track when you said maybe a lift. In cases like that, because there's nothing we can do about it. When we tell them your yard isn't big enough, there's no place to do it. And in some cases, they give up their parking space because the ramp ends up going into their one parking space, and they'll do that.
I would think you'd have to run it parallel with the trailer instead of perpendicular to the trailer.
And
But still, that may
you
not
would
work.
think, and you would be wrong. I mean, the ramp configurations, they'll go all around the trailer.
boy.
They'll just however the land is on the space. But I don't know who sets those standards of how much land a trailer needs.
To sit on,
And I don't know that you want to revise those standards just because of the minority of people who are disabled or elderly who might need a ramp. I mean, that's not a huge percentage of people. But it's a conundrum when all they can afford is a trailer and now they need a ramp, and the ramp won't work for them. I don't know what the solution is, but it's really common. We probably deal with that at least once every 2 months.
Well, and even for people that are seeking housing that is ADA,
Oh my gosh, the wait lists are insane.
insane. There's a young lady I know who has been on one for years, and she finally just got into the Tullamore apartments, but she's been waiting forever because she cannot find, she's permanently in a wheelchair. She cannot
Like
find.
years, people wait years to
Yeah.
get an ADA compliant units here.
That's something that we could, when people come in with their development ideas, you could mention that. Maybe they'd be willing to, instead of just meeting minimum code, add more ADA compliant units to their apartment buildings.
Right.
Do you get that a lot where you have to encourage people to make it more accessible? Do people try to get away with?
Not really, we don't really have a lot of pushback on, especially new construction. We just say, it won't make it through review or it shouldn't, we're not perfect, but it shouldn't make it through review. And so they will get a permit issued to start work, and if they're not meeting all the code requirements. So we would just keep kicking it back to them saying, if they're not meeting ADA requirements, we would just say that we're not gonna issue it until the architect brings us a set of plans that you.
For years and years and years and years, city code or building code or something required 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit in an apartment complex. But someone told me, did that change recently? The city council reduced that?
It's, yeah, that's in the zoning code, and I think they cut it in half. didn't
Yeah, they did. I think so.
For sure.
I don't know the exact numbers, so Don Ortiz, Community Development Office Supervisor. I don't know the exact numbers, but they did review the parking standards, and from my understanding, almost what was required has now been cut in half. I don't know if that refers to the ADA parking or not. That would be a great question for Katie or Joel Boston.
Well, your average, say, couple living in a condo or an apartment, you might 2 people, 2 cars, 2
Yeah.
jobs, 2 workers, it all makes sense, but I've stood in front of several groups and said, growing population of older people and disabled people, they don't own cars. Or if they do, an older couple, they only own 1 car, they don't have 2 cars.
Yeah.
And for senior specified housing or disabled specified housing, you could reduce that. It sounds like you already did, because I was following up on what you asked or someone, whether that would be an incentive. Hey, if you would make more units ADA, we can reduce your parking requirements as a bargaining chip, because I know you have some bargaining chips, landscaping and other kind of things.
I wouldn't think they would allow reduction in the ADA parking. They would probably maintain that standard and maybe reduce just the general parking if it's a large parking lot, or, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah.
No, I'm just saying, it seems, we go out and visit a lot of our clients, they don't own cars, they have all this parking, they don't put it,
Yeah.
unless they have a home health aide who comes a few hours a day. But that's 1 person. So they themselves have said, that's why they'll say, well, you can extend the ramp into my carport or into my parking space, because I don't use it, I don't own a car. And it's just something as our community ages to take that in consideration, so we're not paving over so much land.
Is there anything else for discussion? Any other questions, insights?
Public buildings. I mean, I do want to give credit that finally the doors at the community center are electrified. Yay!
We were really happy with that yesterday when we had to bring things in and out.
Yeah, we were hearing you talk.
When we had
Me
booths
too.
at the Health and Wellness Fair,
Mhm.
the button isn't really big, but
No.
I was standing out there pointing it out to everyone. Who was like bringing carts and wheelbarrows or wagons and stuff. I go, push the button, door will open by itself. And it certainly took long enough. I mean, it's a public building. Why didn't it have electric doors, It's a voting place. I'm the one who started harping at it last November when I saw someone in a manually operated wheelchair trying to get in to vote, and he couldn't open the door and get in at the same time.
It's really difficult. All you had to do was get online and follow the process. And it took
You
me
sent it in,
15
right?
seconds, Mark, geez.
To do what?
I made the request and they told me it was gonna be done in the next couple of hours, I was like, hey, that was pretty awesome.
Well, at the very least, the county could have employed someone to just stand out there and open the door for people. But anyway, it was done. Thank you very
Having-
much.
Having been there yesterday, even not a special day or anything, there were older individuals coming in and out, persons with disabilities that were coming in and out, so, I mean, even on a daily basis, it's very
Yeah,
necessary.
I mean, a sign might be helpful,
Yeah.
so it's more visible, because it's very inconspicuous.
Yeah, it's a little
not the-
button.
Yeah, it's not a great big button. It's a
Uh-uh.
little-
Like, I was used to the big circle ones, like, that we have, but this was
Mhm.
like, this is just a little
Yeah,
rectangle.
but I appreciate that. And are there other public buildings? I mean, do you guys inspect school buildings? Any kind of government buildings? Certainly the new courthouse.
It has electric doors. I know
It,
this.
it has everything you can possibly imagine, and the widest hallways in 100
Tall
miles.
ceilings.
Yeah, we do, the the courthouse is not ours. that's
Right, right,
the
yeah.
county, but, yeah, if it's, we don't get a lot of new schools, we got the LHS and that one does, but, you know, like these existing schools are pretty old, so.
So they're not required to come up to standard.
I would have to look and see, yeah, if they are or not.
Even if a student is attending there that maybe isn't a share?
I would think they would make accommodations.
I would hope
for
so,
it.
yeah.
I don't think it's, as far as I know, it hasn't been an issue.
I was trying to think, I was just at my kids' school and I'm almost certain Richards has a
We
button.
still have.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Well, when I used to work at the school district decades ago, you know, you had the old high school and the third floor was not accessible. The elevator didn't go to the third floor. And so it doesn't. Well, I mean, the building was built in the 20s, yeah. And the elevator was only put in the 70s, I
Super
think.
secret floor.
But, well, there are 3 classrooms up there, and if a disabled student wanted to go to one of those classes, they had to literally move the class and rearrange the whole school so that the class a disabled student wanted to attend wasn't on the 3rd floor. I mean, it's the only thing you could do in that case. Oh,
I did notice that the Ulta at the Men's First Plaza doesn't have one,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a newer building.
doesn't have a what?
Not all buildings are
electric.
required to, it depends on the occupant load,
Oh, okay.
and there's other criteria that they require it. I'd have to look to tell you that
Okay,
it's a pretty high occupant load. Public buildings are,
yeah,
there's some that are, but where Alta's a commercial business, they wouldn't,
necessarily.
yeah.
Well,
I'm
I
actually
tried to go in
terrified
there
to go in
this
there with
summer.
a chair, even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's so tiny. There's
It's
stuff out
the,
there.
Yeah,
the hallway or the, you know, the aisles for the things, it's so small.
yeah, yeah.
And
Like I said, I tried
Yeah,
to
it's
take
very
a photo
narrow.
out there, and they're.
Everything's glass. Like everything, don't take kids in there.
Pulling it back.
Yeah,
It was bad.
gravity.
Well, that's interesting.
Go in there.
But then like you go to Old Navy, which is right next door, and they've got one.
Yeah, and it might have just been, when they designed it, they put them in, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
More accessible.
Yeah, you think they
Accessibility
want it to
friendly.
be more accessible for their customer. For
That's
business.
interesting.
Real mess.
Any further discussion?
What would if a complaint, we talked about, you asked, you know, where does a complaint go to and all that, if it came to us, what would we do with it?
Well, I guess
Nothing.
that kind of depends. Like if it came to DAC,
Yeah,
disability advisory.
yeah, our commission. I mean, we have no,
Suppose we would
we have
reach
no
out to our
power,
resources.
we have no
No,
power to make anything.
no, but I think you guys have the education to know, are there people within the city like Jeff or Brandon? Who would have the answers?
Which would
To be able to tell
a
us.
referral to the.
Yeah.
Has anybody
I mean,
helped someone through that process of filing a complaint with the FHA or?
Oh, yeah, just not in regards to this like specific topic,
Do you,
but I have, yeah.
I was just wondering, do you know if there's like a specific time frame for follow-up that they have? for
So,
complaint?
The
I
one
know
that I dealt
but I'm
with,
just kind of curious.
well, the ones that I've dealt with have been specifically like, speaking to like section 8 housing vouchers and being, asked to move, for non-compliance of, you know, lease violations and stuff like that. All were resolved within 60 days or less. I don't know if that's the hard and fast rule, but that, they were solved within like a couple weeks, 3 to 5 weeks maybe. But many of those involve getting Intermountain Fair Housing Council involved. And once they're involved, they're pretty sharky when they get things done, but.
So Intermountain Fair Housing.
Well, thank you guys
Yeah.
for coming and.
Yeah. thank you.
explaining that. Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, glad to do it.
I enjoyed this, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't feel like you have to stay for the
Educational.
rest of the meeting if you don't want to.
Which I mentioned.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn.
She's the head, attorney there.
I feel like.
Hey, good meeting you. Have a good
You
day.
don't know until you have to do it.
So talking about this,
Thank you.
it felt me feel a little more empowered to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
On to approval of minutes. Anybody more find any? Find one. That's it's direct support professional appreciation week.
Yes, it
It
is.
says drug support,
Oh, okay.
What?
Let's be direct.
direct.
Direct support, not drug support. Oh, that's funny. Why,
Not that that would be super cool, but.
I don't mean anything by this, but why was Jed Randall singled out? We had all kinds of people in the audience at last month's meetings.
Uh-huh.
Was he on the agenda? Why was he
Because
singled
I
out?
knew his name.
I mean, not just his,
The other gal that was talking, the realtor. Yeah.
well, I don't mean just under citizens.
You mean
comment,
under
but
non-members
at the top, yeah, non-members attending, Jed
Well, and he
Randall.
gave a citizen comment,
I mean, I've seen
which is
some
like.
Yeah, she was the
commissions,
only one.
I've seen some other meetings of committees or commissions where sometimes they'll list names and then they'll say, and 14 other people, you know, in the audience or something like that, so that it was clear that.
Yeah, I've never been
That
clear
wasn't
on,
just-
on what to do with people that are in the audience.
Yeah.
But because he gave public comment, I listed him.
Okay, I guess that
Yeah.
makes sense, if they gave comment, but, cause I mean, even his wife was here, but you're right. Okay, you want a motion?
Yes, please.
Move the adoption of September 11th. 5 minutes as amended, that one. And
Would second that.
All in favor? Any discussion of opposition? That's. Then future agenda items.
So Dr. Jolene, she got in contact with, is it the facility we're talking about?
Yes,
Okay,
Nice.
and
with their new house manager.
yes,
And they're willing to come in and answer all of our questions and give like a synopsis of what they will be doing up there, so maybe as to settle everybody down.
you mean
This
this.
This over house.
We're gonna revisit that. Okay.
Well, I think nothing ever was,
I think
it was addressed, but nothing was,
There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
well, there isn't, but
It's just education.
I think it
Yeah.
opens an opportunity for the public to understand, which is the only thing we can do to fix it.
Well, because here's the thing, I did
It's
learn this
great
yesterday,
points.
so, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So I went to a different meeting yesterday at DHS, and if this is successful with this house, they would like to open a small inpatient facility here.
Ooh.
Inpatient.
And we could use that here.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
don't have any
Closest
from
one's
here,
down in
Spokane.
southern Idaho.
Yeah, here in Spokane or Southern Idaho.
Crazy.
And so you have all these people who maybe are trying to get sober and they're getting given a replacement instead, like isoboxen or some of these alternatives where they maybe could go to inpatient treatment and not have to utilize that afterwards if it intensive outpatient and a good counselor. Like there could be alternatives to treatment rather than just throwing people on more meds.
Or jail.
Or jail,
They do
yeah.
reach
I'm sure court services would love it. Sure,
Oh, that's the meaning of
I'm sure the
that.
veterans would love it. Wow.
They're not.
Could be great.
Out of here.
well, I think the idea was that there was just a lot of conversation about having a sober living
Nobody really
in a
knew.
neighborhood, but there was a lot of assumptions, not a lot of like understanding of what do they do?
Yeah.
What are the requirements? Are there requirements? Have they planned out parking? So it was a lot of like maybe one
Yeah.
side of the conversation. I think this would allow good, bad, or ugly to answer those questions rather than the assumptions.
Mm.
So,
Well,
With the assumptions, I think comes a lot of stigma.
yeah,
we got a big article in the paper,
Yeah.
which might have been the first time that our commission was featured.
I don't know if our commission.
Wait, what?
I think they mentioned us.
They mentioned
Yeah.
that that's where the discussion.
Oh,
took
okay.
place.
they quoted me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question that I thought of after that meeting was over, and this may sound really, really stupid, but. So the ADA, I believe Jennifer said that addictions, people who are addicted to drugs or alcohol fall under the ADA.
If they're in recovery.
if they're in recovery.
So
Okay,
not
but I mean, that,
use of, but in recovery.
so I'm relying on you or anybody else, because I haven't read the ADA from beginning to end. That's expressly stated or
Yes, it
has,
is.
okay. And
Well-
somebody asked me, but not tobacco addiction? What about tobacco addiction? Why is that not considered a disability? Anyone want to answer that one?
Well, I'm not, I get that, cause there's many addictions out in the world that float around, you know?
Yeah,
So, I
but
mean,
if you had an employee who said, I'm really addicted to smoking, I need an ashtray on my desk, I need to be able to smoke while I work. You wouldn't have to accommodate that.
No.
Right.
No,
There's
there's
other
other
than-
legal provisions that say you can't have.
Yeah, smoke-free workplace.
Yeah.
Or what if as an agency you had to like help to link them to supporters to help them quit or something
Well,
like
and
that?
I believe, because I remember Jed, hope he's not watching this, the most boring 3 meetings I think that I'd ever sat through, where he went through the entire ADA.
Where he read it out loud.
Yes. And that was where, from what I understood, that was when I first found out that drug and alcohol addiction was covered by the ADA, that it cannot be a fireable offense. You have to be given an opportunity to seek treatment. So,
Yeah, if an employee was to come to us and say, I'm seeking treatment, you couldn't otherwise, it's like a safe harbor. So.
like,
Well,
it's
okay.
a reasonable accommodation
Yeah.
to say, I have to leave to go to a 3-hour meeting, and you have to, it's a reasonable accommodation.
But then like our insurance, I don't know if this is pretty regular, but like our health insurance has smoking cessation
Mhm.
assistance, basically.
Yeah.
But it's a benefit.
State of Idaho, I believe Medicaid is free.
Well, there's programs too that'll actually pay you to stop smoking at some places, like the health department had it for a while, and I mean,
But you
there's been
don't-
other organizations that have put stuff on like that to encourage people to stop.
So you're technically not accommodating their addiction, you're accommodating their efforts to recover. Okay, that's a big difference. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I'll go back and tell the person.
It says what it breaks it down to is the definition of disability. Physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. A record of such impairment or are regarded as having such an impairment.
So maybe.
So,
it's
cause tobacco
considered-
doesn't impair you. So it's not mind altering it or your daily.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I didn't make the rules.
Anyway, so that will be next month's agenda item.
That was planned, was to do the November 13th, if you guys are all okay with that.
And he was good for that.
Yeah.
Take it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's where this group is really gonna shine, is the communicating and,
And it can be a great opportunity for community engagement.
yes.
Yeah, like the same people that were having issues come in, ask questions.
Well, yeah, like I said, it could help like curb some of that, the stigma that comes along with all of it. 'Cause it's gonna be there regardless. I mean,
And so I'll try to dampen the
yeah.
animosity.
November 13th is the date.
I like the way you're going about it, though,
Information's
they
power.
do plan out parking, it is safe, so to speak, they're,
Well, now they
they
have a
have to
house
be
manager
good
and
behavior,
they'll have to
things
check
like
in with that person. Like there are substantial rules to what they're doing.
Like, do they get regularly driving alcohol tested or things like that, you know?
On the spot, if
Mhm.
suspected. I mean,
Yeah.
so they get to come in and do all the naysaying. Put that
So
to
there's
bed.
probably rules of things they can't have there and they found with, you know. I guess we'll see.
I was interested when they said about the inpatient.
That'll be
you know, like,
informative.
That's
That'd be
kind of a
great.
big deal. Yeah.
well, and getting somebody sober and healthy is a lot safer than not helping them.
Well, yeah.
I mean, this.
Very good for the community.
This was probably maybe mentioned last month, or else maybe you told me the owners of the House in Question, which is hardly the only sober house in the city. There
Oh,
are-
no, he wasn't aware of all the sober houses.
Yeah. Is that a nonprofit organization or?
So I think it's
for-profit?
both. I think it's got it's two parent companies, I believe. I'm not certain. But they don't pay rent there. It's completely funded through Magellan. Through Medicaid.
The people living there. I know, I was just wondering, I guess I
Me?
could ask at the county, are they off the tax rolls because a nonprofit owns the building, or are they on the tax rolls because it's a business that owns the building? Because they do own it, right? Or
Yeah, they do
they're not
own it.
leasing it.
No.
Just wondering. It's not that important.
Oh, now I'm curious. I'm looking
Yeah.
They have different motivations, for-profit versus non. With all due respect to those of you who work for for-profit.
Any commissioner comments? Staff liaison comments.
I was just gonna say, bring that dog every time.
Oh, he loves all the
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah, that dog is welcome any dog is welcome anytime.
Love dogs.
He had a nice bath this morning, twice. It's bad.
I know, you're
Other
girl.
He
than that,
didn't up on the playground. I can tell.
Those
It
parking,
was-
those parking requirements are in planning and zoning,
Oh.
it's section 37-149. It's pretty long, cause it's all the different types of properties, but that's where all the parking requirements are. Or a good chunk of
They're
them,
not
I should say.
for profit. Like I didn't answer your question. So it is a foundation and a for-profit. So I imagine the foundation probably funds the for-profit to some extent, but they're split into two entities, but for-profit and then a foundation.
That's what I read there.
All right, and I guess we can have ourselves adjourned.
Thank you guys for entertaining it, don't we?
I can do it. I know, I'm down with it too. Yes.
Are you being a good boy? Don't work.
I know.
Working one up.
Gonna get them all excited.
Yeah, we're